You are one of the best people on your team. Not in your own estimation alone. Objectively, the numbers support it, the feedback confirms it. When something difficult needs handling, your name is the one that surfaces. You have built a reputation for competence that took years to construct, and you have been careful to protect it. So explain this. Your boss just quietly handed the project you built to someone else, credited work you completed to the team, kept you out of a meeting that directly concerned your portfolio. You are not imagining it. Something is happening, and it has nothing to do with your performance. I am Zara, and what I am about to show you is the structural reason your excellence has become a problem for the person above you. Picture someone 4 years into a role, technically beyond question, the go-to person for every high-stakes deliverable the team produces, trusted by colleagues, respected by stakeholders, referenced by name in meetings 2 levels up. By every rational measure, this person is an asset the organization should be protecting and advancing. Then the patterns start. A cross-functional project they built gets presented by their manager to the senior leadership team without them in the room. A stretch assignment they had been informally promised goes to someone with a shorter track record. Their ideas, raised in team meetings, are acknowledged briefly and then later surfaced by their manager as the manager's own observation. None of it is dramatic. There is no single incident that would hold up as evidence of anything, just a slow accumulation of moments in which their visibility is reduced precisely when it should be increasing. They ask the question every high performer eventually asks in this situation: what did I do wrong? Nothing. That is the answer. The undermining was not a response to a failure. It was a response to how well they were succeeding. There are 4 mechanisms producing this outcome. None of them require a malicious manager. All of them are logical responses to a specific set of organizational pressures. Understanding them precisely is the only way to navigate them. Mechanism number 1, the replacement cost calculation. A manager's performance is not measured by how well their team develops. It is measured by what the team delivers: output consistency, deadline adherence, headcount stability. Every high performer who departs for a better opportunity costs their manager something concrete and visible: recruiting fees, ramp-up time, a gap in delivery that requires explanation upward. The organization does not reward a manager for developing someone so well they outgrow the role. It charges them for the vacancy. A high performer who is visibly excelling, whose name is already surfacing at senior levels, is a flight risk priced into the manager's internal budget. The rational response to a flight risk is not to accelerate their development. It is to reduce the signals that might make a competing opportunity more legible to them. Keeping a high performer slightly below their full visibility is not sabotage. Inside the system's logic, it is risk management. Mechanism number 2, the authority gradient. Managers derive a measurable portion of their organizational authority from being the most strategically capable person in their immediate team. This principle is rarely stated. It does not need to be. It is simply how hierarchy maintains itself across every organizational layer. When a direct report begins operating at a level that approaches or matches the manager's own strategic capability, when their thinking travels further, their output gets referenced more widely. Their name appears in senior conversations with increasing frequency. It does not just create a retention risk. It creates a quiet displacement threat. The response is structural containment. Assignments that are real and necessary but low profile. Reduced access to the rooms where organizational direction is set. Credit diffused through the team rather than attributed directly. The high performer is not being punished for poor work. They are being managed back to a safe distance from the manager's own position. Mechanism number 3, the narration monopoly. In every organization, the story of an employee's performance travels upward through a single primary channel: their direct manager. The senior leaders making advancement decisions are not observing the work directly. They are receiving a narrated version of it, filtered, compressed, and shaped by whoever is doing the telling. A manager who feels threatened by a high performer's trajectory has both the motive and the mechanism to control that narration. The work still gets delivered. The credit gets distributed broadly. The specific achievement that would make a name land on a senior leader's radar gets absorbed into team language instead of attributed individually. The high performer keeps performing. The narration above them stays thin. A thin narration at the decision-making level is indistinguishable from average performance, regardless of what is actually being produced below it. Mechanism number 4. The visibility valve. Access to organizational visibility, cross-functional meetings, senior presentations, strategic initiatives is controlled almost entirely by the direct manager in most organizational structures. This access is not allocated by a neutral system. It is allocated by a human being with their own set of incentives, pressures, and blind spots. A manager who is managing a flight risk has a rational incentive to limit that person's exposure to the senior leaders who might accelerate their departure. A manager who is managing a status threat has a rational incentive to keep the high performer's profile contained to the immediate team level. Neither incentive requires conscious awareness. The pattern can emerge from an accumulation of small, individually justifiable decisions: who gets included in this meeting, whose name gets mentioned in that briefing, that add up to a systematic reduction in the high performer's organizational footprint. The visibility valve is the most powerful tool a manager holds, and it operates almost entirely without oversight. Here is where the pattern becomes a trap. The high performer, sensing the reduction in visibility, typically responds the only way they know how: by performing harder, delivering more, making the work so undeniably excellent that the organization cannot overlook it. This response is logical. It is also precisely wrong. More excellent work handed upward through the same manager produces more excellent narration for the manager, and the same thin proxy for the high performer at the level above. The harder they perform inside the existing channel, the more valuable that channel becomes to the manager, and the stronger the incentive to maintain control of it. The loop tightens. The more indispensable the high performer becomes to the team, the more expensive their advancement becomes for the manager. The more expensive the advancement, the stronger the structural incentive to contain rather than elevate. Excellence delivered through a compromised channel does not accumulate into recognition. It accumulates into dependency, theirs, not yours. The reframe is this: the manager is not the audience you need to be performing for. They are one node in a larger information network, and the high performer's error has been to route everything through that single node, while the node itself has a structural incentive to filter the signal. The correction is not confrontation, it is diversification. Here are 3 moves. Each one is specific enough to begin before the end of this week. Move number 1. Build one direct visibility point above your manager's level this month. Not to circumvent your manager, to exist in the awareness of the layer that ratifies advancement decisions before you need their vote. A cross-functional project, a genuine observation shared in a meeting where senior stakeholders are present, a problem that touches their team and that you engage with directly. One interaction, executed well, begins to establish a narrative above the narration bottleneck. Move 2. Document your contributions in a format that travels independently of your manager. Project retrospectives, written summaries shared broadly, visible records of outcome and attribution that exist in organizational systems rather than only in your manager's memory. Work that can be seen directly does not require a narrator. Remove the narration dependency wherever the work itself can speak. Move 3. Identify the single most pressing problem your manager's manager is currently facing and find a legitimate way to engage with it. Not self-promotion problem engagement. The layer above your manager does not advance people they cannot see clearly. Give that layer something specific and substantive to see, connected to a real organizational priority, before the moment you need their decision. The channel that has been filtering your signal cannot be your only channel. The person in that story kept delivering. The work was always real. The capability was never in question. What was being managed quietly, structurally, without a single conversation that could be cited as evidence was their visibility, their narration, their access to the rooms where their name needed to land. They were not being held back because they were insufficient. They were being held back because they were too sufficient for the layer above them to be comfortable with what came next. That is not a reason to perform less. It is a reason to route the performance differently. Most people spend the most productive years of their career optimizing a signal that is being systematically reduced by the only person positioned to transmit it. The work was never the problem. The channel was. Subscribe to Zara versus the Workplace. The next one is already waiting.